Welcome, travelers, to Tales from the Closet. I'm your host. Help. I'm your host, Allie Beardsley. This show is, I'm really struggling with the candles. Yet again, some more bullshit at the top for people listening to it just on Spotify. I'm currently dropping candles. Welcome. If you're in the closet, this podcast is for you. If you used to be in the closet, it's also for you. If you have never been in the closet, lucky you.
What's
that like? What do you think a secret is? Today we have a very great episode. I'm very excited for all three of our amazing guests. And if you're listening to this in its podcast form, know that you can subscribe to Dropout to support us. We don't have a Patreon or anything like that, but we do have this streaming online service. I believe it's like $4 or $5 a month. I'm getting a head shake no. I'm not quite sure which way to take that. It's more or less.
Perhaps $5.99.
Perhaps $5.99.
But
Thank
for
you. But for you listening right now, use promo code Blue Apron to unlock a free month.
Marketing strategies are slick.
That's my favorite part. I've been listening to podcasts, and when they like seamlessly go, it's like a sex and love podcast, and it's like, well, if you gave a blowjob too early, it's never too late to sign up for Blue Apron. Like, what? I'm thinking I might start doing that for companies that haven't asked me to. So we'll see. Maybe that'll come out today. You know what? Enough about Blue Apron. Let's move on to our guests. Who are you and what are you doing here? No, I'm kidding.
Hello, I am Jess. I'm a writer here at College Humor. I'm bi. My pronouns are she, her, and she.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just a little bit about me.
I'm Brice. I'm a comedian writer, and my pronouns are they and he.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Holland MacFallister. I'm an actor, comedian. My pronouns are he and him and hey. And I identify as homoromantic asexual.
Oh.
So if you're looking for a little niche
Yes,
thing going on.
I love it. The more specific we can get. Yeah, that's great. Thank you all for being on the cast today. Usually we kick things off with, when did you come out of the closet? What did it look like? How did it feel? Kick us off, baby. Anyone.
I'll start us off. I can't remember if this was in the Lost episode. I think so. But I had an interesting coming out story. I was in I kind of sensed and knew that I was attracted to both men and women since I was a kid. And like kind of experimented with it a tad in college, but never like even thought being bi was a real thing just because of so much stigma that was around it. Like it's, just for attention, which I probably at the time did want some attention too. So I was like, well, maybe that's it. So never romantically pursued anything that maybe I was interested in out of fear and anxiety and guilt and misunderstandings around what I was. When I was in Philadelphia, I was in a long relationship with a man that ended, and I had planned on moving out to Los Angeles. And then this woman, Kate, who had also been in a very long-term relationship with her ex, they broke up, and she was like, hey, I'm interested in moving to LA too. And I was like, cool, great. And we started planning the trip out here, and we were going to be roommates. And then as we kind of were planning the trip, started having romantic feelings, started hooking up, sleeping together. And then it was like, am I ready to live with somebody again? Like, then it felt like a huge, like, what's happening? I don't even know, like, how to define myself or how to define this or what's going on. And it kind of just took this thing of like, well, let's just kind of each day that you're happy and it's working, just follow that and don't really worry about labeling it so much. So we drove across the country, boned across the country, got to LA, hadn't told my family. We bought this huge like king size bed from IKEA, and then my mom like came to visit, and it was like trying to find a weird excuse for why we had a king size bed but we're roommates. And then when my mom got home from that trip, she like called me and was like, "Do you and Kate have a special relationship?" And I was like, "Yeah, we do. We're together." And I think around that point was maybe when we had like just first started to say "I love you" too. So it kind of all felt like the right way to go about it coming out. And my mom was a little shocked. I remember her saying like at first like, "This isn't what I thought for you. Like I didn't think you'd be with a woman." And it's like, well, a lot of things in life happen that you don't think, so I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's not how kids work.
Yeah.
This isn't The Sims where you get to control like each,
I mean, she was far more, not that she was upset about it, but far more upset about just hearing that I was going to move. She was like, "How could you have done this to me?" I was like, "I don't know, Mom." So that's my, at least that she was, I guess coming out to friends too was interesting as well, because they had, a lot of friends had moved from Philly to here at the same time and knew us one way. So it was like telling them, understanding us as straight before, and then people out here only knowing us as like, not really even bi, but like lesbians together, but identifying as bi. So it was always this weird, like new people meet me and think I'm a lesbian, and old people see me as straight, but like I'm bi. So having to like redefine yourself that way too.
Totally. I loved how you said like people would think that you're just doing it for attention, and you're like, maybe at that time I did want a little attention. Like,
it's hard when people say it, because it's like, yeah, I'm a high school student who nobody will have sex with. Like, yes, I do want attention for sure.
But it's just so annoying, like that what people put on other like sexualities other than straight. Like they're like, "Oh, you're just doing that because you want love and affection and a partner." It's
or
like, yeah, duh.
Every type of sex is for the benefit of a man. Like, "Oh, well, you must be attracted to a woman because you want this man to watch it and think that it's hot."
Oh, yeah,
like
fully.
So much of women, having to be like,
thinking that you're being like really performative and
yeah, it's always like treated with the gravity of like, what's the grift here?
What's the big idea?
Fully realized, actualized human being sounds pretty good, and they're like, we'll see, buddy.
Yeah. They're like, really? No, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. You're like, no, it just doesn't include you. They're like, you're playing games with me.
Sounds like a scam.
Even to this day, if we're like just walking down the street holding hands, it's usually like a man who will either like whistle or think like we're both there for like his enjoyment or pleasure. And it's like, this has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I once had a man buy my groceries. My partner and I were in.
I mean, that one.
I'm into that.
I mean, of course we took it, but like it was crazy. I was just like,
how
what the fuck world am I living in? Whereas my brother is like, beat up his whole life for being gay, and it's like, okay, this is a nightmare world.
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely see where I, at least especially safety wise, am in a different situation than maybe a man who is bi or, other people who are different sexual orientations. Because I'm like a white woman with another white woman. And men are like, "Oh, well, that's my like sex object."
Yeah.
Although that article I saw the other day came out, like 2 women in London who got like beat up.
Yeah, it was
because they
such a
wouldn't
shame.
kiss. And there have been times when people have like spit on me and Kate, or like it does feel like, "Oh yeah, like what are you like?" It does feel like if we're not sexual for their pleasure right in front of them, that something might escalate.
Good God. Yeah.
So when I read that, I was like, "Oh, I could see situations where maybe we were close to having something like that, or you're like followed for a bit, or a car is following you for a bit, and you're like, you can put people in a car very easily and drive off."
Yeah.
So my heart goes out to those 2 women. I hope that they're okay.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, how did you guys come out? What was your...
Oh, well, I think I had a couple of goes trying to do it before it took. I was about 5 years old the first time I tried to tell my family I was actually a little boy, and they were under the impression I was a little girl.
Wow.
And because they were Southern Baptists, they decided we were going to go ahead and have me keep pretending to be a little girl. And if you think about it, it's wild. If a story came out that a family was forcing a little cisgender boy to wear his hair long and dress like a girl and go by a name that he didn't like, it would be like the next Sybil movie. Everyone would be like, who are these monsters?
Yeah.
But I tried to come out, and I think what had happened is I saw a drag queen for the first time on TV or something. I think this was around the time that RuPaul had like Supermodel drop as a single, and drag became something that, in the same way that it is right now, really in the zeitgeist. And I was like, oh, you can choose?
Yes.
That's how, as a child, I thought it was. And so I like proudly went up to them and was like, just so you know, I'm actually a boy, and I'm going to need to have boy clothing, and, and they were just like, no, suppress.
Really? Wait, where are you from? Which area?
From Riverside County here in California.
Oh my God, me too.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
So I'm from Norco, California.
Oh, I'm from like Paris.
Yeah, I know
but
where
not
Paris is.
Paris, yeah. I hate saying it. I'm like, I'm from Paris, and everyone gives me way too much credit. They're
No.
Oh, oui.
I
And I'm
remember
like,
you.
no.
This won't mean anything to anyone else, but it was a big deal that y'all had an In-N-Out because there was a big billboard that was like a 3D burger. Oh, so that's how I know Paris.
I took so many photos in front of that for MySpace. I'm really into burgers, y'all.
That's something that a MySpace teen in Paris, California would be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Norco, California, if you don't know, is a very, very red state kind of town here in blue state California. And so because we lived in a place where it was like farming community, very conservative, and I was also with some crazy Southern Baptists and the white ones, so it's not even like a fun Southern Baptist church to go to. The music's not good. I just had to I was like, all right, well, I guess this is something I just keep inside of me, and maybe I can forget about it. And then 2016 happened, the election happened, and just having a nervous breakdown and realizing that there were children, like actual little children, who were coming out and being far braver than my cowardly ass was being about it. And so I just I walked into the place I was working one day, and I saw all of these Post-it notes in the women's room, and they were just notes comforting each other, because this was the week or so after, just filling up the entire bathroom, and I just got overwhelmed, and I locked myself in a bathroom stall, and I texted my boyfriend at the time, "I'm trans," and it kept autocorrecting to trains, and I just was like, "Am I not supposed to say this?"
I'm trains. Oops, trains.
Because I was crying. I was just getting so frustrated. I was like, maybe I won't do this now. And so I came out to him first, and then a few months later, that was November, and then around, I think right after Christmas, I just went ahead and came out to everybody else.
Wow.
And I think I had just recently come out as queer. And so I was like, oh, that wasn't the whole story. I buried the lead. Women are actually not necessarily us people I'm interested in, but I think you're all beautiful. And I happen to be a dude. Thank you.
Wow. Oh, so that was because I'm really fascinated by this. I had this inkling of oh no, I'm only into women. So that forced me to come out. And then gender stuff came afterwards.
Right.
But imagining being no, I'm into men, and then you're and also I am.
Right. It's in some ways, being a little gay boy who was closeted, there were some even advantages, because I didn't necessarily have to worry about being bullied for wanting to play with Barbie dolls.
Oh my.
And being effeminate.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. Even as a little boy, they would call me a tomboy, but I was the one who would burst into tears the moment I had to go play with the boys. Because they wanted to just.
And everyone was like, "Oh my God, of course not. Yeah, you don't have to do that."
Yeah. And because at that time it was still super casual to be homophobic. There was even a kids game called, "Are you okay with
Smear the Queer?"
Yeah.
Yes, I knew you were going to say.
I was always the queer. They knew somehow.
Yeah.
So,
oh yes.
Yeah. So
I remember that.
Yeah, and so being attracted to men, I was a little bit. I was maybe I am attracted to women in that vagueness when you're first coming out, and I had to really do some self-crit about that and say what am I just trying to explore for the sake of it, and what is actually true to my own experience, my own identity.
Yeah. Do you feel yourself being bisexual, or mostly interested in men?
funnily enough, it was when I started my medical physical transition, as we would call it, where the body changes happen more. I actually tried sleeping with a woman for the first time, and she sat me down and told me very gently, broke it to me, honey, you're gay. You're very gay.
What?
You little faggot.
No way. No way.
Yeah, now she and I are like fabulous friends. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, so I've slept with like
that's so
a
funny.
couple of women, but yeah, not for me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Wow, that is so wild.
Yeah.
I love that. And Holland, you?
Oh my God! First of all, I love trains, and I would have loved to have come out as a train. I wish I'd had that
I'm
option.
trained.
If that's your truth, honey.
I went from L.A. to Boston. On
Yeah.
a train. I just loved
I
it.
mean, a lot of men online on the on the alt-right like to tell me they're attack helicopters. So you do whatever's right for you.
Thank you. I have permission. It's so funny because kind of formulating, what answer, and there's so many random parts to this, and the overriding theme is that confusion has followed me my entire life to this day. So my first erotic imagery we had. First of all, I think I'm your oldest guest you've had. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being on.
So a lot of stuff I talk about is from a different time in a different period.
Love it, yeah.
So I grew up with Playboy in the house, and now Playboy doesn't even have naked women in it anymore. That's the change. So the whole thing was when your folks left the house was you ran and found the Playboy.
Wait, who? Just like your parents had it, or this
Yeah,
was like
my
the
dad
porn
subscribed to
stash?
it.
Wow.
Yeah,
and it wasn't
Dads were
particularly
shameless,
hidden.
at least about Playboy, because it was like considered like a mainstream sort of
We were
magazine.
also
yeah.
I had pretty forward-thinking parents.
Oh,
I mean, let's
cool.
just say they were the first in our area to have a hot tub in the backyard, and they had guests, and they,
Oh wow! Where
I'll
are
just
you
leave
from?
it there. Massachusetts,
Okay,
Cape Cod.
Cool.
So I was really turned on by women, and it was just like, And then I remember, it's so funny because it was a long time ago, but I remember one day I was flipping through the magazine and I came through the fashion spread. I was like, oh, they look nice too, And kind of part of my truth is I've always found human beings sexy, male and female, from the waist up. And I've always found the waist down a little problematic.
Wow!
I love it.
So there was a long period where the hardest part about coming out was that I came out as gay. I only learned the word asexual like a year ago, or as a concept, as an option. And I love that this appears on YouTube, because YouTube was like my second coming out, because it was watching all these millennials. I was like, oh my God, the options now. And
Yes.
please listen carefully. The menu has changed. So at that time, when I came out, there's a name that some of your listeners may know, and I don't know if any of you will. Harry Hay. He's called the father of gay liberation. He started the first gay organization. It was one of the founders of the first gay organization in this country called the Mattachine Society. And I came out to my family as gay when I was when I was 18. I did have a couple of experiences with women. The two things I remember is the woman was, I don't want to be graphic, but oral sex. Can we say oral sex?
Yeah, of course. You can honestly say whatever you want.
So
this is a very
she kept coming up for
unfiltered.
air and saying, you think this is fun for me? You think I'm enjoying this? So that was my first experience with a woman. So that was
Being interrogated about how you're wasting her time.
Oh my
I'm
God!
enjoying this. So that wasn't a great first experience.
No, I would say
Then there were
not.
others that were equally not so great.
Was she a stand-up comedian?
No. Well, actually,
so
maybe
like-
a
Is
little
This
bit.
thing on?
Yeah, exactly.
But the real memory I have with trying to have sex with a woman is her saying to me, is me saying, I am relaxed. I am relaxed.
Oh,
goodness.
goodness.
Never tell someone to relax when they're that's,
no.
it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Never tell
So,
your partner to relax ever.
at any
It
rate,
doesn't work.
Even way beyond the age where, people had usually figured out their identity, I was still thinking, male, female animals, there must be another choice. I mean, they're just, because I didn't quite have a thing for all of them. But here's where I'm not really the poster boy for asexuality either, and where I feel, not gay enough and not asexual enough. I do have a libido. And I am attracted to people, and I can be, it's almost like, I'm a bit of a grammar geek. And, some verbs take objects and some don't. And for me, sex is like energy. And it's like a verb without an object. So I will be aroused, I'll be but it doesn't result in I want to perform what's traditionally thought of. I'm sensuous. I mean,
Yes.
I've tried going to a couple of cuddle parties. To me, that's like an orgy.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a Me Too experience at a cuddle party.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I am too. So that's kind of not anything. But back to the coming up. So I'm someone who, that kid who couldn't keep a secret, who had to tell on, who just had to be the righteous, Dudley Do-Right, and I just couldn't keep a secret.
The narc.
So I was at, what was that?
You were the narc at school.
I identify as a narc.
It was like when the kids were burning down, a building. I was the one who called. So thankfully, the fire department came.
I was probably the one who brought matches.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, you want to see something cool?
I remember you.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a whole confluence of things that went on. I think I was 18. It's interesting remembering because I came out as vegan the next year, and that was probably harder with the family. There's a few things. So going back to Harry Hay, there's a movie that came out in theaters, and it was called Word Is Out.
Oh, yes.
You know it,
Yeah.
okay. So for people who don't, it was just interviews with gay people, very similar to what you have here. But it was so radical at that time to go to a movie theater and hear gay people talk.
Because what year was this?
It was in the 70s.
Yeah.
I'd have to do some math to get the year. So I saw that movie, and in the movie, it was Harry Hay and his partner, John Burnside, and they were just magical. They were like the old men that everyone wants to grow up to be, no matter what your gender or orientation. They were just wise and open and wonderful. And, to skip, I ended up living with them. And that was just amazing, yes. But at the time, I saw that movie. I went to, it wasn't the Pride Parade, but they used to have, and maybe they still do, a rally in like a little park before the parade. And I got so riled up, I had to make the phone calls. And I was here in California, everyone else was back east. So it was, I think, July 4th, Independence Day. And I called everyone. I was hoping for champagne bottles to be brought out. It wasn't quite that. But again, I come from a great Jewish liberal upbringing, and there was no shunning. I got kind of the words like, well, we're not thrilled about it, but of course we still love you. And the aftermath was my mother ended up going to talk to our rabbi, and the rabbi said, well, it sounds like he's fine with it, so maybe you should get some help.
Hell yeah, Rabbi!
Wow.
Yay, liberal Judaism.
Yeah,
Yay.
wow. What's that like?
Yeah. It's funny because I now live in the district where there's a lot of Orthodox Jews, and and their view is so different from my
A little
upbringing.
bit different, yeah.
And I look at these people in my mind, I always go, my people, but not my people. It's kind of that. So it got to such a comfort level. Around that time, my parents moved to Mexico, and they retired there. And I remember we're sitting, this beautiful veranda overlooking, and they had a gay friend. And it was the four of us. And the gay friend of my parents said, where are you from? And at that time, I was living in New York. I said, Queens. And the guy said, I didn't ask you what you are, I asked you where you're from. And we all had such a good laugh. And it was that moment where I realized, wow, there's just total comfort with my parents at this point. So they went through their journey and I went through mine. But the oddest part is it was tougher for me because I lived with the identity as gay and always felt like such a failure at it. I never felt probably the least comfortable room for me to be in was one that was all gay men.
Interesting.
And I'd say today, it's still not the most comfortable room for me to be in. And an all straight environment is not the most comfortable. A queer environment, and that's mixed male, female, non-binary. When you put, all of it, that's when I'm kind of feel at home.
Same. I feel the same way when it has like a political bent to it versus like a party bent,
Right.
When you go to something and it's like a vodka Red Bull party and it's like, this is gay, versus when you go to, like a rally. I feel so much more comfortable there.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, like what you said about before about like walking in and being like, these are my people, but they're not my people.
Yeah,
exactly.
I feel that every time I go into the Abbey in West Hollywood.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Someone immediately steals your phone and then someone's
I'm like, I'm too
touching your
working class to be here, honey. I gotta get out of here.
For a long time, I thought that came from not being gay pretty enough. Gay pretty, because I never wanted to say, but gay pretty enough. But I later realized, no, it was because it wasn't who I am, and I think people could sense that, because there are plenty of people who compensate with humor. No, I don't want to say compensate, that's a bad word, but who are accepted based on other things. I mean, in the gay community,
Totally, yeah.
in the Abbey community, let's be specific. You are, looks is a calling card, and then other things can be a calling card. And I didn't really have any of those prized attributes. So, yeah.
I feel like in the gay male community, it's so cutting at sometimes. It can be just so like that.
It's a lot of sizing each other up.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's men.
It's competitive, and all of them have like daddy issues, so they're ready to fight each other.
Yeah, my brother, like just talking about like our friend groups and stuff, my brother will just be like, this guy said this weird thing to me about the hat I was wearing. I was already feeling uncomfortable.
I feel like almost what was like thrown at them by straight men maybe in school, they end up like throwing on each other. Like, this is how you be the dominant male in this situation.
Yeah. That is so interesting. It's so jock. And I'm like, that is who put you down all growing up, and now you're like emulating this like jock look. There's like a gym themed bar here like down the street. I'm like, okay, like cool Letterman's jacket. I don't know. It's like 10 years too late. Like, move on.
Right.
Stuck in trauma.
I don't know. There can be something kind of liberating in being able to take that hypermasculinity though, and to extract heterosexuality from it, and like in the vein of like Kenneth Anger films and stuff. Like the leather biker scene, and in the leather community, it is a lot. Ironically, they're hitting each other with whips, but there's a lot less like toxicity to the interaction.
I mean, I'll say BDSM is absolutely the most like consent-filled world, and it's so sweet and caring, and you have to be, because you're gonna go so far with it. It's like, cute.
And though it's not my thing, just it is good to know that there is vegan leather bondage.
Is there really?
There's a whole online thing that caters to
I
love
vegan. I love that. Oh, that's so
no
sweet.
animals were harmed in this whip.
Yeah,
You will be.
You will be, but no animals.
The only pig here is my boyfriend.
One little pig was harmed. They were a human. All right, great. Well, we are going to move on to our haunted word, which today is the word spectrum. It's a cable service that you too can sign up for. No, I was just kidding. But please do send me money. Spectrum, Fios, anyone. Honestly, just send me a DM.
Our haunted word is Fios.
Today is Fios and Threadless. How many more brands can I say? Literally so sorry. So spectrum, what does that make you feel? And where do you feel on which spectrum?
Okay, because we're probably talking mostly about like gender and sexuality spectrums for this sort of stuff. And it's endlessly fascinating to me, because I feel like gender is a grift.
Is a grift?
Is an actual scam. Is a scam. And so when I first came out, it was just as non-binary, and my pronouns were just they and them, and I didn't change my name for a good, I think, 6 months or so, and it was a really weird experience trying to figure out where you fit on what most people think as just being traditionally two rods, and then realizing like there's a whole space in between it and potentially outside of it. And then as far as my sexuality, I was like, oh, well, I only like maybe men, maybe other masked people. I don't know any other trans men, but if I did, would I be sexually attracted to them? And so it's taken me a long time, and I feel like I'm still going to be on that journey for a while, because I only came out at 27, 28, and I'm like 32 now. Oh no, I was 29. Yeah, it hasn't been that long.
Lying about your age already.
Yeah, wow. So is it a grift in the sense that you are grifting, or that you're being grifted?
No, I feel like we all are just being forced to go like to make these decisions about what is gendered and what performs as a certain gender. But I'm realistic about it, so I say, no matter how I feel on the inside and what I know to be my own truth, I also know there has to be a working truth. I got the this brainwave actually from some terrible people. I won't say their names. We'll say Lem Tamiro.
I know talking about.
And Pear Fight. And Pear Fight is a trans woman who loves to be a lapdog for conservatives and just go on and nod along to whatever garbage they're saying. But she did go on and try to at least fight for her own humanity with this man, and said, like, okay, say you say that I am a biological man to you, but let's say you go and meet me at a restaurant, and because Pear is high femme. You go and meet me at a restaurant, and the maitre d' says, okay, who are you looking for? Are you going to point to me and say, that man over there? No, you're going to say that woman over there, because it saves time, it's efficient, and that's what the working truth is for everybody else. So I also know that there's like a working truth for what my identity is, and I can alter that as I go, but for like if I'm walking through the world, I'm just seen as a man, and because of my inherent femininity, or what we would call an effeminate nature, I'm seen as a hyper visible gay man most of the time. So yeah, I would say it's so in flux, the spectrum, that I even in what I think is like the absolute truth, I don't about my identity. Even if I were to be able to arrive there, the perception of the rest of the world, I don't know how it's affecting how I feel about myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know at what point I just have to be practical and be like, I'm just a little gay dude. I'm not a non-binary homo-romantic person, because the average person, Sally in Milwaukee is going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, he's saying
like
some kind of fruit.
I almost like don't want to fuck with that. It would be so nice and pure to be like, I don't care what the world thinks. This is what I look like. But yeah, there is a level of like, you're kind of at your wit's end when you don't have any visibility in the world, and you're just kind of like misgendered time after time, and you don't feel like you're legible.
Yeah, and you don't also want to have the internalized guilt of not constantly sticking up for yourself, especially with strangers.
Impossible.
You don't want to be to the supermarket clerk who in no way was trying to offend you by misgendering you. Be like, how dare you assume my pronouns, ma'am?
Yeah.
I happen to be a non-binary individual.
Anyone who's at work, I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Like service industry, I'm like, this is not the battle that I want to fight. But hey, it would be nice if some higher up had like a gender training seminar at Taco Bell. Come on, people! Like,
I'm misgendered all the time, by the way, especially when people aren't looking at me. And I even grew I had really long hair for a while, and I grew a mustache to help people out, and it didn't work. I'd still have grocery, clerks say, will that be all, ma'am?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I did this for you.
This is all for you. I hate this. This is for you.
But they usually self-correct. It's usually when people weren't directly looking at me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that was a side
No.
part.
And I think also realizing that misgendering also does happen to cisgender people. It's always taken with way more gravity and respect. They're always like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir.
Right.
But that also helped me along with my journey and like trying to accept who I am, because there are a lot of cisgender men. Like my last serious boyfriend before I came out, he was very self-conscious. Sometimes he has a high voice. He would be mistaken for a woman all the time on the phone, all the time. And so like those sort of experiences, while uncomfortable, I'm like, okay, well, that really helps me wrap my mind around the fact that I can't have a fixed point of what masculinity is. Yeah.
I would love to be operating on like this plane where I'm kind of like, okay, I'll do things to help people out, but then also have like a futuristic thought in mind of like, let's start to kind of get this gender binary taken apart in little ways so
Right.
that there is a future where I don't have to like, shave my head to be gendered correctly when I
Right.
don't want that. Like maybe I want really long hair and painted nails, and for that just to be off the table, the gendering of everyone,
I think that will just take time, especially with how gendered like most of the, like, especially in English, like all of the origins of our languages are romantic, which are heavily gendered.
Yes,
So
incredibly
we have to like
gendered.
break our languages.
French people are like, the salt is a man, and you're like, oh great, I'll literally
I can't
never
be.
get understood.
Not
I
my
can't be.
salt.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
my salt.
Not my salt, sir. Gaston. Yeah.
So,
back to the spectrum, because you were saying you identify as asexual and aromantic, homoromantic, and then
by romantic curious.
what they call, and you said like you sometimes have libido. Do they call it gray ace? I'm trying to.
Yeah,
remember if there's
the
a
only thing
specific-
with gray ace, because I've tried to figure it out. There is actually a very complicated word that I meant to bring with me, but I forgot it. That kind of describes me better than gray. It's something very clinical, like chloririces. I don't know. It's very complicated. But it is people who are turned on by images and things, but don't. It's all. It was very telling. I did talk therapy for a year, which I loved. It was great. And it's mostly about my obsessive compulsive disorder. It wasn't mostly about sexual identity. But we were talking about sexuality, and he was asking me what I turned me on or something, and I was describing something, and I was describing others. And he said, well, where are you in that picture? And that really made me stop. And he said, oh, are you maybe like more the voyeur? And I mean, no one wants to be called a voyeur, but I thought, yeah, that is true. I am kind of outside it.
Well, there's a consensual voyeur. There's absolutely room for that, and to give yourself
I mean,
that.
I'm not sure I really want to watch real people. And I do like certain forms of. So it's somewhere between gray. I'm definitely not aromantic. I'm definitely not. I get gushy feelings.
Yeah, because
with the right
aromantic
guy.
are the people who don't experience the romantic
Romance,
feelings.
Yes. So, as I say, I mean, I'd love to be the poster boy for something, but I'm the poster boy for nothing. Because it's just,
I don't think so. I think you are the poster boy
I'm
here.
the poster boy
right?
for people who don't know what the heck. But there's an interesting parallel, because I thought, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
Oh, not at all.
Okay. So, we all have running threads in our life, things that just keep coming apart and coming together. And one of mine has always been spirituality and different. We were talking about this earlier. I've been a member of every religion for 10 minutes. I mean, from pagan to Methodist,
Yes.
and things you've never heard of. But right now, I keep getting drawn back to the study of Advaita, which is also known as non-duality. It kind of doesn't see any permanence to what we are. It sees a permanence. It doesn't see us separate from God stuff, and that we are that there is no there for you, And when you think about it, are you your thoughts? Well, your thoughts change all the time. Are you your feelings? Well, which feelings? The ones you had this morning or yesterday? So this is kind of the thing with when I think of spectrum, I think of labels. And labels, I mean, the number one use of labels is marketing, right? If we can't label you, we can't sell you something. We don't know your demographic. So that's one. But it also can add a prism or a paradigm to view yourself in the game. If you see this as an illusion or as a game, well, we're playing it. We're here. We've got 4 markers on the board, right in this, right here. So, in that game, what helps you? And I think part of labels are when you name something, you have a different relationship to it, right? It's the same with animals. People have a different relationship to an animal with a name to an animal that doesn't have a name. And I think when you have a name for what you think you are at any given moment, it does give you a certain sense of belonging and a certain sense of, that's what I am.
I mean, that's
know?
why people take these, like, I'm a Hufflepuff quiz.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, we're all really, there is comfort in a label.
It's
and,
wanting to belong and wanting to feel part of.
And at the same time, though, it can make people frightened to accept that label too, because it can feel very limiting.
Can I live up to it?
Yeah, and
Can I be enough of
especially
that?
in queer communities, it can get very much like, are you doing this correctly?
Yeah.
So you should, you should wear the label. The label shouldn't wear you.
Right.
That's it. You should use it and feel free to change it on a daily basis. What are you today? That's, when I do. I mean, that was really kind of my thing about coming on here. Is like, what am I? What am I going to be tomorrow?
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, there was a woman who I think was a producer or something on something that we did, and I guess she would write her pronouns on the whiteboard each day of how she was
that's
feeling.
great.
And I like that fluidity, and I especially like that happening in like the context of like a film crew, which is just kind of like, like people who are like, I don't know, like just give me one, like I need a call at you from across the room. Maybe I haven't seen the whiteboard today, but it was just kind of like mischievous.
I had a frightening, inappropriate moment where I was talking in front of a woman and her child, a very, very dear friend, and the child identifies as non-binary, and I began to say to my friend, your daughter, and I realized that was incorrect, and I froze. I was just like, I don't know what to say. I mean, it was like the worst moment in my life. And they were like, child, dear child.
But I do it. Gosh, I would love something, because when I think about being like, about having kids, I'm like, well, they call me parent. My brother calls me his sibling, and I'm like, these feel so clinical and weird. Like, I want something cuter than that.
Let me tell you what my mother said, because my mom was just great. Well, she passed away a couple of years ago. We talked on the phone every single day. And when I was coming to this thing about asexuality and developing a routine about it, she was completely baffled by it, and I was still baffled by it. And she said, how about I just call you Holland? I mean, how about we just use that? You know? So your kids can call you Allie.
Yeah, that's great.
That's problem solved.
Yeah, and I mean, that's how they do it in a lot of Europe. I remember when I first met my girlfriend, she called her parents by their first names, and I was like, oh, you grew up in a cold household.
Wow.
And it was like, no, that's like what people do. I was like, oh, that's so funny.
Or they can call you Mummy Dearest.
Yeah, you must call me Mommy Dearest. All right, we're going to hop into arguably my favorite part of every show, which are questions from viewers. Sometimes they write their name and their pronouns so that we know what to use in this answer. Sometimes they are anonymous, and I understand. Okay, hopping right in. As someone who is on the aromantic asexual spectrum, how do I fill my need for non-sexual intimacy, i.e. hand-holding, cuddles, etc., without being in a romantic relationship? Sincerely, Lindy, they, them. I would imagine this is a question for you, Holland. You're our expert here. You're our poster boy.
Human touch is so vital, and it really is necessary. And I feel a lack of it right now. I did something before my bad experience with the cuddle thing.
Yeah.
It was another group that no longer exists, and they were great because it was very orchestrated and very well facilitated. And at the end of that evening, I felt it was basically a gay thing, but it was sensual touch. And it was amazing because I felt, you really felt the glow that you associate with sex at the end of the evening. I mean, I really had no idea that you could feel that to that level. So there's two suggestions I would have. One is really weird, but
Go on.
I did this for years. My body no longer really, it's not really comfortable for me to do anymore, but I did gay square dancing for years.
Oh, Oh.
And I even at the yearly conventions used to do the nude gay square dancing. But
I love this.
that was called the Midnight Tip. At any rate, square dancing is amazing, or any kind of folk dancing, because you are holding hands and you're interacting, and it's completely non-sexual, and people come as partners, but usually in any kind of folk dancing or reels or square dancing,
Yes.
you're rotating,
Totally.
and there's, and especially there is a non-gender specific folk groups. I mean, I don't know where, I was going to say our caller, but our writer is from, but I would do that one. There is a cuddle site. I think it's problematic for men because most men who are not on the asexual spectrum, many times it devolves, or they're looking. And I had one experience that wasn't negative with that, which was a one-on-one. We're really haunted. It's not just the word. Okay. So I would say check out, there's a site. Can I say the name of the site?
Please. Yes.
It's Cuddle Comfort.
Great.
And I'm not sure if it's .org.
This was not the bad experience.
This was not the bad
one.
experience.
Okay,
That was a group thing. That was like a cuddle party kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
But Cuddle Comfort is matching one-on-one. It's just like a
great.
site for people to meet. And if you really don't want it sexual, I would go for a partner that doesn't match your, maybe if it's a straight, you know what I'm saying? Match in a
Oh,
way
I
that you wouldn't be
understand.
sexually
Yes.
interesting
Yeah.
to them.
Yes.
Because a lot of people will say their identity, they identify as straight, but they'll see male or female. Also, if you're in LA, there is, I haven't been, but I'm looking forward to it. It seems a little, it doesn't seem like I know someone who's involved with it, so I'm sure it's queer friendly, but it doesn't seem like a particularly queer space. But I'm very interested in checking out, and that's called Cuddle Sanctuary.
Okay.
So I would do anything that is non-sexual, that's dance, that involves holding hands, and if you want a little bit closer look for cuddle opportunities.
Cuddle opportunity. Yes, I've been hearing about these
there's
so
also
much.
a book. I don't
Is
know.
it vitamin T?
No.
Oh, okay. Vitamin T is all about touch and its effect on your body.
That's fabulous.
I have this book on my e-reader, but it's really a book about approaching friends non-sexually to do cuddle and doing contracts and how to appear. I mean, that's.
Oh my gosh.
So it's
No, I love that.
Yeah, I can't think of the name. Actually, Cuddle Sanctuary recommended the book, so probably on their site it might lead you
Great.
to the book.
Oh, that's amazing. What a wealth of information.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Holland. Wow. All right, next question. Let's see. I am Generation Z, and I hear a lot about how my generation is so diverse and accepting, but I don't see it around me. I live in a small town. Everyone's super religious. No same-sex couples at prom. If you're gay, you're going to hell. People use FAG all the time as an insult. How can I feel less alone from gay kids my age when I am so physically isolated? The things I hear about my generation being super accepting truly feel more like myths than reality.
I think that is something to keep in mind, that like if you live in a place where you can even say out loud your truth, you're incredibly privileged, because not like that for the majority of the world still. And honestly, the fact that you were able to get this question to us, the internet is going to be the single greatest resource to connecting to queer people. And as I said at the top of the show, I grew up in a very, very small town. And then later in high school, I moved to a place called Yucca Valley, which is right next to Joshua Tree, to an even smaller town with even worse homophobia and racism. There was like a full-blown chapter of the KKK up there, by the way.
Oh my God.
And people would spray paint, fag on the door of a straight teacher's a classroom. So it was so terrifying, and I wasn't even out to the other out gay kid at school because even that didn't feel safe.
Yeah.
And really you just have to honestly it sucks, but it's like stiff upper lip, kid. And get the hell out of there as fast as you can. Get to a city. It's the advice that people have been giving each other since the dawn of time. Get to a city and find chosen family if your family's not going to be there for you.
It's hard too because I went to a performing arts high school in New Jersey, which is like East Coast, potentially more liberal, even though I grew up in more of a conservative rural area. But the school was in, you would think there were dancers there, and there was a drama program, and that's what I went to, the theater program, and it was mostly women and like 3 guys. And even there, I didn't feel comfortable coming out. I know other people now from like, Facebook or being friends with them over the years who didn't come out. So I think it's sometimes odd to be like, oh, well, these certain places where it would be totally accepted, everybody can. And there are still these feelings of like not being able to. Like there's so many reasons why people don't come out.
I felt completely alone all through high school, and I was literally, all my closest friends were gay as well.
Yeah.
They're all out now. It's like we were
like
all
when
just
you're
quietly in there together,
And that's the intensity of, what we internalize,
Yes.
And so, you just have to really, really understand that, like, some of us just get dealt hands in life that are a little more challenging.
And self-love and acceptance is really, that's the only thing that you can have at any place in every level. When there's the big media thing with it gets better. I mean, some of us who are older was like, I don't know, I'm still single. I mean, I don't know. The myth that we're all going to, have. But what does get better is you learn more about what you can control.
Maybe.
So everyone's never going to accept. It's never going to be that everyone accepts you. It's that you accept yourself, and the people who need to accept you accept you.
Yeah,
it's never going to be this perfect world on any level.
Totally.
No one's ever going to, always accept, your vegan diet. I mean, it's not going to be that way.
And they ask, like, how do I, make it while I'm there? Because we can all say, like, oh, you got to love yourself, honey, like RuPaul says. But, especially if you're a teenager, like, thanks.
Right.
I would also recommend my best, coping defense mechanism was getting a sense of humor about things and learning to troll the fuck out of everyone around you as much as possible. I do it even here with with cisgender people, because even in LA, just we're better than other places, but it's still like a lot of work to get people to understand trans identity. Like I performed as a drag queen, a femme queen, for the first time recently, and a lot of people didn't quite know why I would want to do that. Even other trans people don't know why I would want to do that. And sometimes trans people will even like delegitimize each other for not, really, really hardcore adhering to masculine gender presentation or feminine gender presentation. And honestly, all you can do is just say, well, if you don't like it, I'm going to find ways to like mess with you about it as often as possible. To what is safe. Don't put yourself in any harm's way doing it, but really learn to laugh at the straights, and you'll have a much better time.
Are we allowed to mention a political candidate?
Yes, of course, please.
So I'm a huge fan of Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing that I love, which may be especially difficult to apply at a formative years, but he really sees. He talks about understanding where people are coming from, seeing it through their view, what's their background. So, it's not going to work on every level, and it's not an instant fix. But it is interesting to sometimes go, I want their compassion. Can I turn it around at all? Can I think, wow, they really grew up in a time or a place where this is what that they are victims. Their minds are victims of some of that.
Yeah.
And what's the way in that's not combative?
Yeah.
But it's a way, because someplace in that molded thought thing, where's the entry place? Where is the little thing? So it's also interesting to look at the other way, that they're not just the enemy, they're victims of something different.
Totally,
I hurt people sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like you've been unfortunately born into a pressure cooker. We both can absolutely relate. And you can spend your time, maybe it's not like it gets better, but it's like you get better.
That's exactly
you
right.
get better.
You get better.
And
you get stronger.
Read.
You're thin,
Yeah.
And there's also there are a lot of, you might think you have to graduate high school before leaving, but there are a lot of high school, private high schools, art-related high schools that you can apply for scholarship money for and maybe move before you're done with high school. You know, I mean, some of them are pretty expensive, but I feel like if you can get the money together, move as soon as you can.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one last one. Let's see. What? We already read that one. Interesting. I have scrambled these up. Okay, here we go. Okay, whatever. I am a newly out gay girl and ready to take on the world. The problem is, sex ed at school only ever prepares you for straight sex, if it even does that, to be quite honest. I'm not, and I'm not really sure where to find, tutorials. Porn is obviously no help. From Jamie.
Yeah, sex ed only prepares you for getting pregnant. And how you shouldn't do it ever until you're married.
I had abstinence-only sex ed.
It's even interesting, and I host an erotic book club podcast here, and in the books that we read, oftentimes, like, if there'll be a virgin girl, and she's, like, leading up to being with the man, but she'll have an experience with a woman, but she's still a virgin. But I was like, but she just had sex with that woman.
Exactly.
And how often lesbian sex isn't even considered sex to some people. Like, if there's not penetration or a baby can't be made or something.
Yeah, growing up, me and my friends would do what we call practicing when we get ready for a boy. It's like, what? No, you were having your first kiss with your best friend at that sleepover. What? It's very strange the way that we have to desexualize, feminine sexuality entirely. And I would say that I had to learn a lot about my own body and a lot about my transition. So I can't imagine what just trying to figure out the mechanics of sex is like. I just had to learn it on YouTube from people who were younger than me. It's very strange. Like, oh wait, what's gonna happen to my body? Thank you for letting me know, 22-year-old.
I think too the best time to learn or the best way to learn about it is doing it, and the first time that you are with a woman, to just be open with communication, to be okay with not knowing every single thing. You don't have to have it be like a movie and you instantly rock each other's world and come instantly. And that communication will allow you to bond and make it an even better experience. So you're allowed to say, I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing. Does this feel good? Do you like this? And it doesn't make the romance go away. It's like an intimate, loving way to be with somebody.
Totally. Yeah, you don't have to fake it till you make it.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, you don't have to get the ultimate gesture. That
was a treat for Dropout.
So would your advice be to Jamie, first time with someone also inexperienced or experienced, or doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters. I think for your first time, it should be with someone that you feel comfortable with. You don't have to find the perfect formula of, they're the exact same age or they're a little bit older, so they'll know more. I think it's someone who treats, I'm going to cry a little bit, someone who treats you with dignity and respect when you have sex for the first time.
Yes.
Because it's so intense.
Beautiful.
You just have to respect your own body, and you have to respect yourself. It's so important, especially when you're young.
I love you.
Sorry, God.
Me too.
Amen.
Often women aren't taught that. They're not going to teach you that in sex ed, but your body is your own, and what you do to it and what other people do to it, it's for you to have control over.
It's so true. Yes. And sex can feel so like we get caught up in the commercial thought of sex that's very
pushing
dominant
against walls and
yes, and it's like, no, it is actually an incredibly tender, gentle thing, and there's absolutely room in there to be like, I've actually never done this before. Let's both figure this out together.
Right.
And
if you are, and you that sort of tender stuff is so important to have that communication. But even if you are into what they could say, mild to wild on Grindr, if you approach the wild, it becomes even more paramount, the amount of agency and control you still have to know that you retain over your body, especially if you identify as someone more on the submissive side, knowing that you need to be able to talk to that person and ask them any question, and to be able to know that you're not going to be disappointing them in any way, or you're not going to get some sort of weird guilt or confusion or judgment, you have to pick people that you go to bed with that you know are essentially like a best friend already.
Totally.
Yeah.
And laughter. In my sexual days, the best sex is when you can laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you queef and you both laugh,
It
it's
is
great.
very weird when no one laughs.
That can make good sex into great sex.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And there are a lot of things online that you can find, and it doesn't have to be porn, which can be like so nightmarish when you're like, I'm going to do that. Autostraddle is like a very fun like lesbian site, and they have, you can't imagine how many like listicles about like, then you do this.
I certainly can't.
I also highly recommend the webcomic, I think it's called Oh Joy Sex Toy.
Yes.
Which is, it's all those illustrations, and the couple who do it are super body positive, and they try to be as inclusive as possible. So there's a good chance you'll see someone who looks like you as they go through, like, here's how this sex toy works. Here's what we liked about it and didn't like about it. And they really break it down for you. And so I highly recommend that if you're like, I don't even know where to begin with my sexuality or what that would entail, especially as a lesbian. There's so much hardware involved.
Yeah, I remember I downloaded the audiobook of this book called The Joys of Strap-On Sex. And I was listening to it when I was like...
classical music playing as...
And I was just like a panicked virgin that was like, I don't know what I'll do when I have sex. And I'm just listening to this in like a Panera, just like the most like graphic stuff. And I'm just sitting there like, and no one knows. And like, oh my God. But that thing was like, that book is honestly crazy, but very funny. And I think I got a lot out of it. So... check out that book.
Get yourself to a Panera, have your soup and salad.
Get yourself to a Panera and learn about the joys of strap-on sex. Well, I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. What a sweet episode. This is very sweet. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a great week. Hey, what's up? It's Allie. If you like college humor and you want to support us, please sign up for Dropout. For the low, low price of a bag of crickets for your pet lizard, you'll get videos a whole week sooner, to chat with us in the Dropout Discord, and exclusive content such as my show, Total Forgiveness. By the twilight's last gleaming. Sign up for your free trial today, and please send me a picture of your lizard. I want to see her. I want to see her dance.